How did one person manage to decipher ancient Maya writings? What other finds were found by archaeologists on the Yucatan Island in Mexico? What kind of stone funeral statues were found in Russia, and what warnings our ancestors left in Japan? Watch the video till the end, you will definitely like it. Hi friend, you are on the KirTop channel. Roasted nuts in antiquity. Of course, roasted nuts don't seem like much of a surprise these days, and everyone you at least once in your life tried this amazing delicacy. But in ancient times, people were not so willing to cook food. Why roast nuts if they are already tasty and healthy? The other thing is meat. So, scientists from the Center for Baltic and Scandinavian Archaeology claim that people in Germany mastered the technology of roasting hazelnuts about 10,000 years ago. Personally, I like cashews more. And which nuts do you like? Write in the comments under the video. In the Duensee swamp in northern Germany, archaeologists have found 10,500-year-old cremated bones. By the way, these are the first bones discovered at this place and the oldest ones that could be found on the territory of present-day Germany. Historians believe that the Duensee was once a lake where people used to catch fish, which they cooked on a fire nearby. And at that very moment, the hazelnuts were roasted. That is, people in ancient times were those gourmets. Most likely, people came to this place in autumn and collected nuts. Archaeologists have found smaller and larger hazelnut roasting pits. They also found bark mats for sitting on damp soil and pieces of worked flint. Local tools are very similar to those found in Britain. This proves that people in ancient times exchanged experience with the neighboring region. To get to each other, they used the Doggerland land corridor, which is now flooded due to climate change. The most interesting thing is that flint is not found in nature in this region, it was brought here from another place. And archaeologists discovered the bones of ancient people here quite by accident. Now we know that roasted hazelnuts were once very popular in Germany, and in Japan they discovered a terrible message from antiquity. A warning from the depths of time. Japan is one of the most developed countries in the world, while located in one of the most dangerous regions of the planet. An entire country with a population of many millions lives in danger every day. The most interesting thing is that this has always been the case throughout the existence of this region, and people have lived here for centuries. This forced the ancestors of the Japanese to understand natural phenomena. Throughout Japan, there are so-called tsunami stones. These are ancient plates with inscriptions that warn that it is dangerous to build houses below a certain mark. If a tsunami happens, the houses in this place will flood. One of the most famous of these stones is located in the village of Aniosi. A text is carved on a 3-meter slab that reads, "High dwellings are the peace and harmony of our descendants. Remember the disaster of the Great Tsunami. Do not build houses below this point." On other stones, a warning is written that people should be afraid of an earthquake, because after it, a tsunami will come. Stone slabs of this kind are found all over the Japanese coastline, and some of them are over 600 years old. The problem is that many Japanese do not believe this kind of prediction written on stones. It seems to them that these are just ancient curses. They build their homes in dangerous regions, after which entire families suffer and die. It seems to me that people in ancient times, when placing these stones, experienced more than one tragedy, after which they decided to warn their descendants. Well, the descendants consider themselves smarter than their ancestors. We don't want to listen to our grandparents either, do we? Yes, the ancestors did not have high technologies and modern measuring instruments, but they had well-developed senses of observation and some worldly wisdom. Therefore, we should definitely listen to our past. That's what archaeologists did with the next find. Hollow Earth, the last door. If someone had told me about this 10 years ago, I would have simply chuckled. Vikings, Antarctica, the underworld, Nazis who had gone inside the planet, it all sounded like crazy science fiction. But the deeper I delve into documents, diaries, declassified reports, the more I understand. This is not just nonsense. It was part of an ideological construct. According to one theory, the Nazis believed in the existence of a hollow Earth, a space inside the planet where an ancient civilization had survived. Paradise, Agartha, the inner world. The interpretations differ, but the essence is the same. It is supposedly a place of power that has eluded destruction and time. The archives do indeed contain mentions of expeditions to Antarctica, planes that disappeared without a trace, pilots' stories about a mysterious glow that emanated not from the sky, but from under their feet. Some of these ideas may have originated in the Ahnenerbe, some came later among those fleeing. It doesn't matter who the author was, what matters is how these myths fit into the worldview, not as a fairy tale, as a refuge. Jade Bowls. 1980s Ecuador. Adventure archaeologist Elias Sotomayor ventures deep into the jungle inspired by tales of a mysterious underground city. The city was never found, but Elias discovered amazing glow-in-the-dark artifacts that are over 18,000 years old. And here they are, forgotten in the corner, 12 bowls and a goblet made with incredible precision from difficult-to-process jade. It's a miracle, right? But it becomes even more interesting. Each cup is a perfect copy of the other, and they all exactly repeat the volume of the cup. But what if in those ancient times in Ecuador there were ultra-technological stone processing machines? And another cherry on top. Each cup and goblet depicts a different constellation. Just imagine what level of astronomical knowledge their creators needed. And all this could be connected with the legendary city of the Red Sun, which, according to myths, was once here in Ecuador. Maybe our mysterious artifacts are all that is left of its inhabitants. Giant sword from Japan. Japan has a unique sword that is believed to have been forged during the Edo period. Measuring 465 centimeters in length and weighing 75 kilograms, it is recognized as the largest Japanese sword in the country. This sword was donated to the Haneoka Hachiman Shrine in 1859 during a ceremony honoring the imperial monument by admirers who shared the views of imperial patriots like Yoshida Shoin. The sword was forged with the hope that it would ward off evil and demons and help create a bright, clean, and peaceful society. The sword is kept in the treasury of Haneoka Hachiman Shrine and is not usually on public display. However, it can be seen accompanied by a special guide by appointment. Kensington Runestone. Discovered in 1898 in central Minnesota, this enigmatic stone is a beautiful piece of stone engraved with many ancient Scandinavian letters. Yes, Scandinavian letters in North America. Archaeologists and historians have long puzzled over the dating of the Kensington stone and determined it to be 1362. Were the ancient Vikings able to get to this place in the 14th century? This find was of great interest to local Swedes and Americans who live in Minnesota. But linguists were not so happy with the find. About 100 years ago, experts almost unanimously declared that a certain work of the 19th century was written on the stone. Despite some disputes between scientists and historians, it is still believed that this work is about 100 years old. Why then does the dating indicate the 14th century, and who is right? Is it possible that historians here do not want to agree that this stone is older than it seems? Otherwise, they will have to rewrite history and many historical events that are now so well placed in school textbooks. And as we know, humanity is in no hurry to write the truth so as not to cause people to panic. If it was still possible to read the ancient Scandinavian texts, then with Maya writing everything is much more complicated. How a scientist deciphered the Mayan script. The greatest discovery in the study of ancient Mexico was made by the Soviet ethnographer Yuri Knorozov. He did what no one else had done before. He found the key to reading ancient Mayan writing. Although he first visited Mexico only 40 years after his discovery. Yes, you can make world-class discoveries from thousands of kilometers away. Yuri Knorozov was an interesting, mysterious, and silent person. There were various stories and tales about him. He was fond of mysticism, Indians, and the decipherment of ancient writing. As I said earlier, he came to Mexico decades after his discovery. It was in the 1990s of the last century. He was greeted as a local star, as an artist, while in Russia, where he lived all his life, few people knew about him. He was born in Kharkov in 1922 in a Russian intelligent family. During World War II, he and his family moved to Moscow, where he became interested in ethnography. Later, he moved to Leningrad. Back in Moscow, Knorozov came across an article by the German scientist Paul Schelous, who argued that deciphering the Mayan script was an impossible task. The young scientist took it as a challenge, and he believed that if something was created by the human mind, then it could be unraveled by another human mind. While still a student at Moscow University, Knorozov helped sort out the archive of war trophies from Germany, and among the materials of the Berlin Library discovered an edition of 3 surviving handwritten Mayan codes published in 1930. In addition, he came across another important document, the Report on Affairs in the Yucatan of the 16th century. It was written by the Catholic bishop Diego de Landa after the Spanish conquest of Mexico and the Maya. After studying the documents, he realized that each Mayan sign is read as a syllable and proposed a system for reading the entire language. In 1952, the scientist published an article, Ancient Writing of Central America, in an ethnographic journal, where he outlined his method. His work was appreciated in scientific circles, and he received an offer to write a dissertation on this topic. When Yuri Knorozov began to decipher the ancient texts of the Maya more, he realized that this mysterious civilization had its own script, army, and administrative apparatus. This means that the Maya had a state. It was previously believed that the ancient Maya were barbarians and conquerors. After deciphering ancient texts, the scientist received many awards. He was awarded in the USSR. Students and officials came to him from Guatemala, Mexico, and the USA. He has been compared to Jean Champollion, who deciphered Egyptian hieroglyphs in the 19th century. During his trip to Mexico and Guatemala, the scientist visited all the significant places of the ancient Maya, Palenque, Merida, Uxmal, and with his own eyes saw the writings of the Maya. From the Mexican ambassador to Russia, he received an honorary award, the Order of the Aztec Eagle, which he was very proud of. In the meantime, archaeologists are trying to study another mystical find, Crocodile Stone. And now we will go to the amazing mountains of Laos, where the ancient ruins of Wat Phu Temple are hidden. Among this temple, archaeologists found one very strange thing, a huge boulder with a carving resembling a crocodile. But even more interesting is that this recess is the size of a man. Many people think that this stone was used as an altar for human sacrifices. If this is true, then such rituals could go back to the time of Chinla, the ancient empire that ruled these lands. According to legend, every year when the frangipani petals began to fall, King Chenle prayed to the spirits of the mountains and offered rice wine to two of the most beautiful girls. Then the girls were sacrificed to the gods. Such sacrifices are described in the 6th century history of the Sui. All this time, a community far from the big cities has preserved this story, which indicates its possible authenticity. However, it is not known what role crocodile rock played in these rituals. This unique carving makes it even more mysterious. Nothing like this has been found in the ruins of Laos and Cambodia. And here is the question: if the crocodile rock was not used for sacrifices, then what was it for? Ivory dice. Archaeologists from India discovered unique rectangular ivory dice at an excavation site in Kijadi, Sivaganga district. These dice served as a source of entertainment for the upper class of society in ancient times. This is the first time that a rectangular dice has been discovered at Kijadi, while cubic dice were found during previous excavations. Archaeologists from Tamil Nadu clarified that the dice was found at a depth of 40 centimeters. Its dimensions are 4.5 centimeters in length, 0.9 centimeters in height, and 0.9 centimeters in thickness. On the four sides of the dice, there are signs indicating the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. In Tamil literature, this dice is known as Pagadaikai, which means four-sided dice. Radiocarbon dating of coal discovered at Kijadi in 2017 showed that there had been a settlement here since 200 BC, proving that urban civilization existed in Tamil Nadu as early as the Sangam era. Magic and the occult. Honestly, for a long time I considered all this talk about magic in the Third Reich an exaggeration. Another myth to add theatricality to evil. But the deeper you delve into it, the less doubt remains. They really believed it. And not just believed, but built a state in which occultism was built into the system itself. Himmler considered himself a direct heir to the ancient magicians. He personally oversaw the creation of the Black Order, the inner elite of the SS, where runes, rituals, astrology, and even sacrifices were not a game, but part of the ideology. Ceremonies were held in the Wewelsburg Castle. The Nazis reconstructed the mythology of the ancient Germans, combining it with Tibetan and Indian symbols. They needed to create an alternative spirituality, one that justifies destruction, one that knows no pity. I was especially struck by how they worked with symbols. This is not just a swastika. These are runes, signs of the sun, blood as a magical substance, a ritual sword. They didn't just kill, they believed that they were killing in the name of. Some documents found after the war directly indicated an interest in telepathy, prophecies, and the search for sacred artifacts. They say that in the last months of the war in Berlin, they were looking not for a way to win, but for a way to disappear, to cross over, to escape to where, in their opinion, everything was just beginning. It sounds like madness, but that was exactly what was normal back then. Stone thread connecting the eras. Funeral practices throughout history have been full of mysteries. All peoples for thousands of years buried the dead in different ways. At the place of burial of the deceased relatives, people from ancient times erected memorial structures, steles, mounds later, obelisks, crosses, monuments. The more prominent the deceased was, the more expressive his grave looked. The ancient Egyptians buried their rulers in giant pyramids. The peoples of Asia poured mounds from the ground or laid them out of stone. Residents of Altai in Russia call such sculptures KirTop. These stone giants have survived wars and natural disasters, cataclysms, and negligent human attitude. These tombstones look like real people. Many have pronounced facial features, clothing, and even jewelry. On the best preserved idols, even belts with typesetting plaques are visible. Their number and material during life determine the status of a person in society. Archaeologists have discovered a large number of stone statues in the Altai Mountains. This indicates their mass production. Scientists concluded that in ancient times, people picked up stones of such a shape so that they were easier and less processed. The stone ancestors of the Altai Mountains can tell a lot about the people who lived here, how they looked, how they dressed, what they fought, what they ate. For a long time, nothing was known about them. They were far from prying eyes, and only recently they began to be found and studied en masse. KirTop is the memory of ancestors. This is a thread that binds entire generations, and in no case should you break such a thread. A people without a past has no future. From Russia, we will go to America, where interesting artifacts are waiting for us. Relics of Michigan. Did an ancient advanced culture once live in Michigan in the USA? The digger James O. Scottford tried to answer this question, who in October 1890 found ancient artifacts in Edmore, Michigan. Cups, figurines, and inscribed tablets were very reminiscent of finds found in the Middle East. Other diggers in the region have made similar finds besides Scottford. All artifacts were sold to buyers and collectors. It's just something else that's interesting. The vast majority of historians and archaeologists claim that all these finds are a carefully planned forgery. They believe that the so-called artifacts were well thought out and copied from other artifacts found around the world. After our hero created ancient artifacts, he decided to bury them so that later he and other diggers would find them. Thus, everything would look realistic and believable. Clay objects crumbled at the slightest contact with water. How they could then be stored in the ground for thousands of years. Ancient writings were chaotically written on tablets, without any pattern or logic. The figurines were a copy of the finds found in the Far East, only their quality was much lower and not so durable. These were the main arguments of archaeologists who conducted a superficial analysis of the ancient relics of Michigan. One thing is for sure, James Scottford wanted to make money and he did a great job of it. But the next find, discovered in Mexico, is the real one. Melted steps. The stairs at the Temple of Hathor in Dendera raise many questions among archaeologists and researchers. These steps, located in one of the best preserved temples of ancient Egypt, look as if they were exposed to incredibly high temperatures, which could have led to their deformation and partial melting. The surface of the steps shows unusual bends and recessed areas that are not typical for the normal wear of stone structures. There are various theories to explain this phenomenon. One hypothesis suggests that the steps could have been damaged as a result of some unknown thermal impact, for example, ritual fires or processes associated with ancient technologies. Another theory points to possible construction errors. If the stones for the steps were formed directly on site from a liquid solution, then the interruption of the hardening process could have led to an irregular shape and softness of the material. Scientists are still studying this phenomenon, adding another mystery to the rich heritage of ancient Egypt. A unique product in the capital of the ancient kingdom. Archaeologists in the ancient city of Hattusa, the capital of the Hittite kingdom, discovered a unique object decorated with ivory, about 2,800 years old. The discovery was made near the Turkish village of Boğazkale, where archaeological excavations have continued for more than 100 years, often leading to the discovery of ancient artifacts. The found artifact, made of ivory, measures approximately 30 centimeters in length and 10 centimeters in width. It stands out for its grace and includes images of a sphinx, a lion, and the so-called trees of life. It is believed that this item was used as a decoration for a wooden box or furniture. The artifact is broken on both sides, but the upper and lower parts are preserved in their original form, which suggests that it was originally longer. This discovery provides new insight into the artistic and cultural aspects of the Hittite kingdom and provides insight into the skill and talent of ancient artisans. Trace of the Amber Room. I have heard about the Amber Room since childhood, the most mysterious loss of World War II. Taken away, hidden, dissolved somewhere between the fronts. There are dozens of versions. There are almost no traces left. But last year, news appeared that forced us to reconsider everything. Polish historians said that they had found a new trail, archives, evidence, old routes for moving valuables, and everything points to one thing. The Amber Room could have been transported deep into Poland. Perhaps to one of the castles, to a tunnel, to a mine. It has not been established for sure. But the fact is that a trail that was considered long dead has resurfaced. It wasn't even this that caught my attention. It was the reaction. As if someone really didn't want this topic to be raised again, there were attempts to hush it up, to challenge it, to push it aside. And the more I think about it, the more clearly I understand. The Amber Room is not just a lost artifact. It is a marker, a signal that much more disappeared in that war than we usually think, and some of it is still missing. Rare Mayan canoe. I have already talked about the decoding of the Maya writing, and now let's look at the transport used by the Maya. In the previous video, if someone has not seen it, I already said that during the construction of the Mayan train railway route, archaeologists constantly find ancient buildings and artifacts of a mysterious civilization. This time on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, archaeologists found a well-preserved wooden canoe. The canoe was found in a freshwater reservoir. A cenote, it was completely submerged in water and at the same time perfectly preserved. The marshland is a great help to preserve ancient objects due to the low amount of oxygen. The length of the canoe is 1.6 meters. The width is 80 centimeters. According to preliminary data, this canoe was used as a container for storing water or a container for offering during ritual purposes and dates back to approximately 830 to 950 AD. This canoe is the only one of its kind that has survived in its original form, although it is more than 1,000 years old. Scientists will create a 3D model of a canoe. This will help to better and safer study the ancient object. During the construction of the railway route, archaeologists discovered more than 80 Mayan burials and the ruins of more than 2,400 pre-Hispanic structures. Ecologists, archaeologists, as well as representatives of Mayan communities actively opposed the construction of a new railway line. You can see some other finds in this place in the previous video on the channel, but only after watching this video, because the next mysterious object will definitely surprise you. Lonely Red Mountain. Australian Aborigines call this mountain Uluru. European discoverers named it Ayers Rock almost 150 years ago. At first, there was nothing out of the ordinary in this mountain, an ordinary rock formation in the middle of a semi-desert. But the number of tourists was amazing. Every year, this figure reached hundreds of thousands of people. The peak of the popularity of this mountain came in October 2019. It was then that local authorities forbade tourists to climb it, and in September 2020, Google even removed Street View 3D panoramas from their online maps. Mount Uluru is located in the Uluru Kata Chuda National Park in central Australia. This block was formed from sedimentary rocks 680 million years ago. Uluru is 3.6 kilometers long, 3 kilometers wide, and 348 meters high from base to top. In most of the photos, Uluru looks like a completely lonely mountain, which definitely adds to its mystery. Archaeologists say that people lived near this mountain 10,000 years ago. The first Europeans arrived in Australia in 1788, but reached Mount Uluru only 100 years later in 1870, all because of the specific arid climate. For local Aborigines, the mountain is a sacred place. There are legends about it, and traditional religious rites are held next to it. In order for local peoples to have the opportunity to visit this place, local authorities turned the territory into the Uluru Kata Tjuta National Park. Red Mountain has become one of the main attractions of Australia, so an airport was built 20 kilometers from this place. Now from 300 to 400,000 tourists come here every year, and it was because of the invasion of tourists that this place became more closed. Wherever a human foot steps, debris and destruction remain. Have mountains of garbage caused the removal of 3D panoramas from Google Maps? It is possible to climb the mountain without the help of climbing equipment, but this does not mean that it is easy to do so. Over the past 50 years, about 40 people have died here. For this reason, local authorities have banned climbing to the top. How wonderful that there is Google that allows you to go to the mountain using a smartphone or computer. But the local natives did not like it. Let me remind you that the mountain is a sacred place, and some places on the mountain are taboo for them. Not only can they not be visited, but even seeing them is a terrible violation, even if it's just a photo. Modern natives also use smartphones, and in order not to accidentally see photos of these places on the internet, Google, at the request of local authorities, removed the pictures previously uploaded by tourists. It's good that there is our channel that will tell you more and show you amazing and unique artifacts of antiquity. Subscribe so you don't miss a new video. Thanks for your views. Bye, everyone.